Okay, welcome back. This is the second class. We're going to finish up the Middle Ages. I think the last time we talked about was the bubonic plague. And now that the last class was basically setting up the lifestyles of what society was going through 450 up to 1450. Today we're going to jump into the music. Now, what makes it difficult to do this, I'm teaching the historical part of this class prior to teaching music, reading and playing an instrument and being able to read music. But since I'm doing the history first instead of second, I have to explain some common terms in order for you to understand the historical part. And with that, let's get back into starting with religious music from the church. During these days and times, boys were educated in music and other areas in life, but we're talking music. They were educated in music, and girls were not. In fact, girls could not sing in the church. Girls were forbidden from preaching or speaking in the church, and so therefore the boys got all the education, and the choirs were made up of boys. There were no women in the choirs, and when I say boys, because boys have really, little boy voices are high. So they had, young boys all the way to grown men singing in these choirs and singing the chants. The first type or piece that we're going to discuss is the Gregorian chant. As you probably, I hope you picked up in Reverend Goshorn's video, Pope Gregory I took over the church, and he was less politically minded as far as trying to conquer lands, and he was not money greedy. He wanted to get everything back focused on Christ and religion. And one thing that he noticed was they were having trouble singing the same song. If they liked this song, they wanted to sing it later on, say 3 months down the road, they had no way of keeping the song. They didn't have it written down. Well, Pope Gregory had his priest sit down and start recording these pieces as they were sung, as they were written, and so therefore they could go back and read the music and recreate the song. The song type that they had, and that's why it's called Gregorian chant. It's named after Pope Gregory I. Gregory I. I think it's just Gregory I. Anyhow, the type of music is called a chant, and what a chant is a melody, a Latin melody, set to sung in unison without accompaniment. There are characteristics to the chant. The first characteristic of a chant is it was sung in unison. You could have 200 people singing it, but they were all singing the same notes, same pitches, and so it's just one melody. It's sung in unison. 2, a cappella. A cappella means they didn't have instruments playing with it. It was just strictly voices only, no other instruments playing. And number 3, is this rhythmic speaking. In other words, very little musical melodies and stuff is just real simple, and it was just speaking words right after each one after the other. I will go on, let me see. Too many pages back. Okay, now, I said it was a simple melody, and it's spoken. I'm going to be moving the phone around now. I apologize for any confusion this makes. But I need you to understand what melody is and what harmony is. This is on my master keyboard. This is a song. How can I hold the phone and record? Well, maybe you won't be able to see. Try that. No, you can't see. Anyhow, I'm just going to set this down over here. Well, that's not going to do a lot. This is a song. See if you recognize that song. You don't recognize that song because that's the harmony. That's not the melody. The melody is the main part of a piece of music. And the reason I say a piece of music instead of the words to a song is because there's a lot of music that doesn't have words to it, but they do have that melody, that main part. Now, here's where you get the idea of what the song is. That's just the melody. Now, most music today, we have melody and harmony. So melody is the main thought, the harmony is the supporting notes that sound good with the melody. There is a lady by the name of Judy Collins, and I'm going to try, we're going to try videos again. I've got complaints about the video, but I think instead of me setting the phone down, to hold it up so the mic can hear better. This is Judy Collins singing Amazing Grace. Now I'm just going to play the first part of it where she is singing the melody. Okay, that was melody by itself. The Gregorian chant is just a melody with no harmony, and harmony doesn't come in for another 1,000 years later. But I feel in order to understand what a melody is, you have to understand what harmony is. Now, they're going to add harmony to this. It's hard to hear, but it's in the background. And if you're going to click on the video link, this is at time section 5/8. If you'll notice, the harmony is supporting the melody. They're not singing words, they're just singing notes to back it up. Maybe you can hear better over here. Okay, now the harmony is singing words, but they're singing the same melody. So this is only one melody. Just because there's a bunch of people singing it, it's still just one melody. We call that monophonic. I don't know why I was showing you the speaker. I was trying to get the mic closer to it. All right, so that was Judy Collins' Amazing Grace. And I mentioned a word when there's just one melody. We call that monophonic. And I'm trying to keep the camera horizontal. My feet can be upside down. Okay. Anyhow, monophonic. Mono means one. Monophonic means one melody. Here we go, monophonic, so that you can spell it. Mono meaning one. So that's one melody. Now, for you to understand, remember we're talking about Gregorian chant. This is, I need to get back up here. And please, folks, you need to familiarize yourself with these tunes. I haven't figured out how yet, but I'm going to play them on a quiz, and you're going to have to identify which piece it is. So you need to have an idea what they sound like. Which one are we doing? Alleluia Vitamus Stellum. Trying to get my notes here. Alleluia Vitamus Stellum. Now, I could go through and explain the titles and what they mean and everything, but there's so many of them and they're Latin. I don't read Latin, I don't understand Latin, and it's just more for you to get to learn. So just remember the title, Alleluia Vitamus Stellum. We don't know who the composer was. It's just a piece that exists. So we say anonymous or anon. We're listening to this piece as an example of chant. And chant is basically rhythmic speech. I know. Here is Alleluia Vitamus Stellum. Even have the notation. The music doesn't look very much like what we have in music these days. Here's Alleluia Vitamus Stellum. It's just vocal, no instruments. Okay, I'm going to stop there because you get the idea. It's just one voice singing. Go back here at the very beginning. The way you can identify the song is it starts off singing the title, Alleluia. Here we go. So that's how you identify it, just from the very first word, Alleluia. When I play the song on the quiz, then you will know that's what that is. Now, the chant notes are what we call stepwise. They're very close to each other. They're all right near each other. And remember I told you that women were not allowed to participate in the church. But that didn't mean that daddy couldn't teach his daughters education or music. There was a priest in the church that had a daughter, and she was called an abyss. I need to make sure I spell this correctly because I don't want to mislead you. I'm going to set this back down again because I know it's making me dizzy. Can you see the board? I hope so. I think so. Anyhow, this young lady's name, I say young, I don't have any idea how old she was, but Hildegard. Hildegard of Benin. Hildegard is her name, and she's of the city of Benin. She was an abyss. I got to flip over. It says, this is how I do my notes. It says, flip 3 pages for Hildegard. There's 1, 2, 3. It should have been 4. Anyhow, Hildegard was the abyss. An abyss was the head woman in charge of the convents, where all the other women studied and with the other women. You know, they worship God and everything at the convent. Hildegard was the abyss or abbess. I'm not sure. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Basically, Mother Superior. That's a common term. Anyhow, Hildegard's father was a priest, and like I said, he taught her all kinds of stuff. She was very, very intelligent in the sciences, in math, literature, and music, and they would sneak her out of the convent and go teach kings and princes and dukes and go teach the hierarchy. Basically, the nobles start teaching them and educating them. The reason they snuck her is because she wasn't supposed to be teaching anything, but she did, and she wrote her own music chants. And we're going to listen to one now by Hildegard called Nuke Opry. If I could write the right word, writing and talking at the the same time is not my forte. Nunc operi, that's a P. Nobis, or nobis, nobi. Now, let's get back over here to the keyboard. I demonstrated to you a while ago how the chants were all sung stepwise, notes that are close to each other. Well, Hildegard added something to it, and what she did, she got away from the stepwise. And this is known as leaps. So she added to Gregorian chant. When she wrote her chants, she added leaps. Now here's something interesting, but let's listen to this first of all. When you do this on playback, you can, let's make this better. Let's make it bigger. You'll notice where I'm starting at 8 seconds. The music doesn't start till 8 seconds into it. So when you do play it on your own YouTube, it's not going to start right off. Here is Hildegard's Nunc operi nobi. All right, right there is where she's got the leaps jumping in. Goes way on up there. Listen again. I'm going to let it play on a little while so you get a better idea of Hildegard's music as opposed to the regular Gregorian chants. All right, I'm going to pause it for a second because there's other voices going on in the background. If you listen underneath the melody, you hear mom. That's a bass note that allows the singers a reference point for the notes they're supposed to be singing. Now, this is not harmony. This is what's known as, and this is where I miss having people in class because it's easier to discuss this. But you know those little things that fly around? They're using them to deliver pizzas and stuff now, get pictures from way up high. When they're flying, they go, eh. Those are called drones. And the reason it's called a drone is because of the sound it makes. A drone is a steady, long-going note. And that's what's in this recording. There's no evidence that Hildegard actually wrote drones, but they come in. In fact, we're going to talk about one in a few minutes. So she did not use drones, but when whoever made these recordings, they went back and added a drone. So listen and see if you can hear the drone underneath the melody. It's not harmony, this is a drone. Hear it just staying down there? Okay, so that was Hildegard Benin not singing, but that is her composition called Nunc operi nobi. And we listened to it. I did not write down why we listened to it, but I'll tell you why we listened to it. As a result of using leaps in chants. And what I think is really ironic is she had all this going on, but no one ever got to hear it because females' works could not be done in the church. All right, that was Hildegard of Benin. We have studied 2 chants now. We talked about just the plain old Gregorian chant, just one melody, no harmony, and a cappella, no instruments being played along with it. Now, that's what was going on in the religious aspect of music. Now we're going to talk about the secular world. That would be the worldly, the non-God part of the world. Now, we don't know much about secular music back in these days because they were not organized. They were not organized like the church. Remember, Pope Gregory started having records made of the chants and stuff so that they could keep them going on. There is, however, a composer by the name of Periton. Anyhow, remember we're going to do last name. Periton wrote a piece of music called Alleluia Nativitas. That's a colon right there. And I see it. Alleluia Nativitas. And what Periton did was he added a second melody to the one melody in the chants. Now, you're saying this is secular, this is still a religious topic. Yes, because remember, we're talking 450 BC. We're talking everyone, including the non-church people, their music, entertainment, art, and also still centered around a religious concept. But what Periton did is he added a second melody to be sung during the chant. It's not harmony, and they're done simultaneously, and this is called organum. And that's exactly why we're listening to it as an example of organum. Flip to cover 14th century music and the page behind it. Organum is a second melody, and it's usually improvised. That's why we don't call it a true second melody, because it's made up by whoever's singing it as they go along. And I'm looking for... Yeah, I'm not going to go into that. I'm trying to keep this simple. So we're going to listen to Periton's Alleluia Nativitas as an example of organum. And I realize the sound reproduction coming out of this computer speaker isn't very good, but I'm going to talk to Mr. Walt to see if we can't get sound bar hooked up here. Here is Periton's Alleluia Nativitas, and we're listening to it so you can hear the second melody at the same time. You hear that second melody down there? That's more of a drone, actually. All right, hear that second melody down below? It's not the drone, but there's a lower voice singing at the same time. It's kind of hard to distinguish. Yeah, now you can hear it much better. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. That was Alleluia Nativitas as an example of organum, which is two melodies. The second melody is improvised all by itself. And here's something I want to share with you. Remember, the chant is rhythmic speak. It's speaking to a rhythm. That's a rhythm. This is just a beat, that's steady, but a rhythm is the different lengths of time that the spoken word is done. Probably one of the oldest forms of music is still popular today. We just have a new name for it. It's called rap music. Rap music is a spoken word to a rhythmic, a rhythmic speak is what rap is. So, one of the oldest forms of music is still popular today. That, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, is the music from the medieval times, the Middle Ages. I plan on, if I can figure out how to do it, it's my first attempt, having a quiz for, this video will show on Tuesday, on Thursday, so a week from today, I'll have a quiz on there where you go in, and yes, I'll set it up so that you only have a certain amount of time. And I'll probably actually be recording it from home so that I can get a better sound going than what we got here. I may end up doing that anyhow. I sent you a message about we now have Zoom. Maybe we can try to go back to class the way it was designed, doing the video thing. But if we do that, then I'll start doing from my house. But until then, we're going to do these videos. You turn in your assignments. By the way, I did get attendance included to be recorded as part of your grade. And so your quiz is going to cover the two videos from, actually, it's coming from every video that I've done, okay, from the first video class to the middle-aged videos, including Reverend Goshorn's video and including this video. That's where the questions on the quiz are going to come from. It's going to come from these videos. I'm not crazy. I realize that you can sit there and take the quiz with your notes sitting right there, and that's fine. But that's also part of the reason I'm going to put a time limit on it, is so that you can't sit, if you got your notes right there, you shouldn't need much else. Anyhow, with that said and done, class is dismissed, and I will put this video on, so it will be on Thursday. Right, because tomorrow you're getting the first videos. That's right. All right, bye-bye.